Hey everyone, this is Vic Lagina. Please go check out Filthy, The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina. You can find it on viclagina.com. You can find it on Audible. You can find it on Spotify. And if you like to read, it looks really good on your bookshelf and it's really put together well. And you've been watching John the Ninja. Had a great conversation with him.
Breaking character. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo, aka the Dojo. And you know it's the John the Ninja Studios. Gotta show my people in Philly love. Philadelphia, stand up. This man may be living in Sin City. He may have made his name in Sin City, but I'm gonna tell you, this man is a Philly cat through and through, especially when he hit me up with Bud when I reached out to him. Only Philly people do that, man. But I'm telling you, there's so much greatness in this man's individual soul. Now, me and him do have a lot in common. We're allergic to cats. We both play musical instruments. We both have birthdays in October. But I'm going to tell you, this man is a peace-loving hippie that is a businessman, and he's also part of the Free Speech Coalition. He has two degrees, and even taught at the professional college level at 24 when it comes to production and movies. But he was destined for more. Even though some people may judge, even some people might question, you cannot face the fact and not admit that this man's body of work has not only influenced the generation, but has been impactful for all forms of business, the internet, and history. The man I have here is Vic Lagina. And Vic, if you're gonna be honest with yourself, you have seen his work because as a businessman, as a director, he has worked with some, I correct myself, all of the biggest names in the adult entertainment industry, being a huge impactful force for how Brazzers took over the 2008 era all until now. And if you know the performer, if you know the company, 100% he's worked with them. But living the lifestyle of a porn director has had its challenges. He's overcome crazy relationships, drug abuse, but now he's at a Zen moment in his life and he's created his new book, Vic Lagina. I'm telling you guys, The Rise and Pending Fall, The Death of Vic Lagina is out now on Amazon. It's on Spotify, and he's graced us with his time to come and talk about his life and talk about what led to the book. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Vic Lagina. Sir, how are you doing?
Good. How are you today? Thanks for having me on.
I'm A-OK. I do have to ask because the one thing that always keeps on coming up, and you keep on mentioning his name, and I have a lot of respect for him, but I wonder, why is George Harrison the best Beatle?
Because he really did not really give a shit about all of the fame, all of the nonsense that was going on around him. I think he was a true musician. I think he was the most underrated Beatle. I guess next to Ringo. Ringo was just happy to be there. But I mean, he kind of was pushed aside by Paul and John. And once he was free, All Things Must Pass, 1970. I mean, that was incredible double album, album, I think it was. So yeah, he to me, I think was just because he could give a shit. He really didn't care about it. He was just more of a musician through and through. And watching what he did afterwards, traveling Wilburys, I mean, that actually happened. Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and the guy that looks like a furry dog. What's his name? I forget. Anyways, yeah, I just really dug George out of them all, mostly.
One thing that I did love to discover, other than looking at other interviews, prior to seeing other interviews to prep it, you do play piano. I wanted to know when your musical journey started because to me, even though guitar, you can see my baby in the back, guitar is the musical expression I speak freely through. That's my best voice to me.
Mhm.
But I cannot deny the power of how the piano is the ultimate instrument. You could do everything if you can master it. When did your music journey as far as a musician start?
Piano lessons at 8 years old. But the problem was iPads did not exist back then. And you were stuck with whatever teacher is available for what, $5 an hour back then. And they're not exactly teaching you the stuff that you want to play, even at 8 years old. So I learned how to read music back then, but it didn't stick. It didn't stick because I just wasn't really into it. And then I tried again in college. My senior year was littered with a lot of electives because I got all the heavy stuff out of the way. So I took piano lessons and it came back kind of quick. But again, we're in what, 1994 around then. And it just, again, the technology wasn't there for me to really captivate me. So what happened was, and I think a lot of it also happened was I saw Groundhog Day back in 1993 and watching Bill Murray learn piano so quick. I was like, I want to be able to do that, you know? So I guess that's what motivated me to take piano class in college. But it wasn't until the pandemic when all of my music festivals, all my music shows got canceled. And I had all this money come back to me. And I was like, you know, now I have an iPad that has these apps on it that teaches you very quickly. And let's give it another go. And all the money that I came back, I bought a keyboard. And wouldn't you know it, it stuck. Finally, it stuck. And I guess having all the time in the world to practice helped. But once you realize you could actually play, I think the problem was back then I was mired down on, oh, what note is that? What note is that? Instead of being like, no, no, dude, who cares what note it is? It's just that one. Figure that out later. Just learn how to play. And it came pretty quickly. So, yeah, I stuck with it over the last 6 years. It's been great.
Once you get into the rhythm of just being able to sit down and comfortably know, hey, this will make this sound, or hey, this is this note, it really does change your life perspective musically. Mentioning movies now, because again, you're 2 degrees, you're doing so much so quickly, and you always said that you love stirring the pot, and you just had this ferocity, I'm sorry, to you, but you were very much the artist in the group. What movies did you like growing up? Because you're a huge fan of production, you're a huge fan of TV, and just the way you pretty much conducted a lot of your work, it's very reminiscent of Groundhog Day. It's very reminiscent of The Big Lebowski. Ain't nobody
Mhm.
can deny that you're not the dude right now. Come on. But what were some of those films and what were some of those TV shows loving the avant-garde that you really gravitated to?
Well, as a kid, there was Rocky. Okay, that's a Philly story. Then you got all the Spielberg stuff, starting with Jaws, Close Encounters. Then you got E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then of course, still one of my all-time favorites, maybe close second behind Big Lebowski, is Back to the Future. I remember Back to the Future in the theater, and I was just like, I think this is what I want to do with my life, even though at that point it hadn't clicked yet. I just loved it. I thought that was one of the most magnificent movies of our time, of my generation. But then you have, the Terminators. You have like there was so many good movies in the 80s and 90s. Um, and that's really what I'm tapping into on my next book, really, which is written. It just is going to be released probably come fall, is my hope. But yeah, it really film, TV, it all moved me. Video games. Like I was an okay athlete, but I wasn't like a jock. I really loved playing Nintendo. I loved watching TV. I loved movies. So, even though I went into college undecided, because I went to a good school like Syracuse University that had an illustrious communications program, I decided my freshman year that's what I wanted to do. And I got into the Newhouse School and eventually got my degree in TV and film production in 1995. That was one of 2 degrees in production. So,
You were explaining in the book about growing up in the Jewish community and
yep.
said you're having trouble finding your tribe. And I wanted to know, you still have the camp friends, those 5 camp friends. You guys have gone through and through. What was it about the friendships with those guys that just stuck, even though you went off and did other pursuits, even though they went off and did other pursuits? Again, you're the artistic one out of the group with them being doctors, them being lawyers. You're really the one that was able to expand and do a lot more than they did.
It's funny, yeah. Out of 5 Jews in the first bunk, 3 lawyers, 1 doctor, and one in the entertainment business. Okay, that's the joke that we always talk about. But yeah, I was the only Jewish kid in my grade, so I got a lot of shit for that. And then even when I went to Hebrew school to get a bar mitzvah, you go over to the main line in at Philadelphia, and you know. I was kind of like the low rent Jew, like the ghetto Jew from Delaware County. So I didn't really fit in with them either. Every summer I was sent away to summer camp, and that's really so my parents could have their alone time. And these young men eventually became like my other brothers. And even though I lost touch with some of them and reconnected later in life, there was one in particular. He's called the Senator in the book. We were best friends, and we still are. And I guess the reality was is that I always felt like I didn't belong, that I was the black sheep, the outsider, the lone wolf. So I have a very small core of friends, but I mean they would lay down in traffic for me if I asked them to. So yeah, it's just been a motif in my life of just not really fitting in. And I mean that holds for porn, the porn industry. I was completely out of place in the porn industry for a variety of reasons.
And you've mentioned, especially Lisa Ann got a shout out in the book. You mentioned Venus Marie, Laura Jensen, a couple of people that no matter what happened, they stuck and were still friends with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but even some of them I'm not even talking to anymore. It's weird. It's like, you exit porn and you can't really do anything for anyone anymore. I'll exclude Alora because I still will talk to her on occasion. Phoenix will reach out. But yeah, I think for the most part, man, the majority of them, they're very topical relationships, even though, I swapped DNA and fluids with some of them. It just there wasn't a lot of depth there in those relationships.
You mentioned that you would keep yourself safe
Mhm.
with making friends in the industry. I wanted to know, did you notice that, or was that something you had to find out? Like, oh, I am kind of protecting myself from other people. I am reserving myself from these relationships.
Yeah, I think I had a really bad relationship pretty much my first few years of being in Vegas. And I wanted my home to be my sanctuary and my safe space. And I think if I were to have been operating in the Valley in LA, I probably would have gotten eaten alive quicker. I was able to muster 16 years in Vegas working for this company, or actually I should say 14 years out in Vegas working for this company because I had my bubble of bliss, my fortress of solitude. And it was very important, especially with who are you inviting into your space. Are they going to bring you drama? Or are they going to be fun for 48 hours? Or are you going to want them around longer? Majority of them felt into that sweet spot of 48 hours where I was like, okay, it's time to go. Very nice. But yeah, it just everything remained very topical and it was very obvious once I was done with Brazzers and done shooting.
Now do more so meditation. You didn't mention as much, but I do know that you were very much into taking the shrooms, going on the trips, jazz festival, the moon rocks, the whole nine. And it did make me think with all those productions you did at your house and trying to ascertain who's safe in my space, who's not in a space. Is it more so that person being within your space actually there? Because I do believe in a spiritual residue that
Mhm.
like, somebody bad could come in or something that's bad for them. I had a guy come through my house one time and I don't know how to explain it, but it's like whatever was bothering him got split. Like as soon as he walked through my door, nothing to do with me. It was all God, ladies and gentlemen. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, you can go places and there's this spiritual energy that's still lingering. Have you ever thought about that? Like, oh, maybe it was people that
Oh,
left. There was something still there.
of course, I had to sage a lot after some people left. So I literally had to cleanse the energy of my entire house because it just felt like it was off. And I got more in tune with that as time went on. Maybe it was all the acid I was doing, maybe it was all the mushrooms I was doing. But I'll tell you something too. One of the things I discovered with writing the book was the reason why I was numbing myself with the bad drugs, alcohol, cocaine, everything like that, was to numb myself from a lot of the bad energies that I was experiencing when I would go to the studio, when I would work. When you realize that some people killed themselves, or you read their obituaries and you realize what dark places they were in, it really resonated that energy that even though it was at my studio or either studio, I had two of them, it kind of stuck with me. So the best way to shield it was let's do some rails, let's do some shots, and let's not feel it anymore. That was really what I was dealing with, and that can only last you so long, which is why by the end of it, I was pretty haggard. Like if it was a candle with both ends burning, we were about down to there before it would have been pretty ugly for me. But we didn't get that far, fortunately.
And another big thing that's been constantly brought up over and over again is how great your dogs have been
Mhm.
at helping you and spiritually. When did you realize you had that connection with animals and pets?
My earliest memory is of my old English sheepdog when I was, first forming memories. I mean, I even have memories when I was crawling on the floor and going up to his bowl and watching him eat. Like that was the earliest memory I have. So at a very young age, there was always dog energy. I didn't get my own until I was in, I call it dysfunctional relationship number two, when I got a German Shepherd. And, she saved me in every way, from the bad breakups, the bad relationships. It's always been a constant. I mean, I just lost a dog last month. So I'm down to one again, which is weird because it was always two or three or sometimes four. But now I'm back down to one, which is manageable. And I think I'm going to keep it that way for a minute. But yeah, for a dude that is a lone wolf and kind of doesn't mesh well with a lot of humans a lot, dogs are the perfect answer for it.
And you've had so many great stories of taking care of them, like shout out to Joker, shout out
Mhm.
Jamie, and all these other ones. But you said, mentioning the dog, the German Shepherd, when she passed, it was
Mhm.
after all that crazy first relationship drama.
Yep.
And you said a part of you died, and
Mhm.
it's never been the same again. And the last time I heard somebody else say that, he lost a brother.
Mhm.
It's always the family member. So do you know what part of you left when she passed away? Do you know what it was? Because it seems like she was holding you together with that little bit. And then when she did leave, it was like, okay, you're going to be okay without me now, Vic.
Well, I think it was more the fact she was taken too soon. I mean, 6 years old, brain tumor. That would have been a horrible surgery that she probably wouldn't have survived. That's what really did it. And I have said it in my book, and my ex-fiance claimed to have been a witch. I will say that I think she put a spell on her or something, and that's what really caused all of this. But I've lost dogs in a lot of ways, sometimes too soon, as in the case with Jamie, sometimes sudden, as it was with Joker, even though he was close to 12. Some that I had to help along because their body wasn't keeping up anymore. Their legs weren't working. And the last two died when I was right next to them on their own. So it was just hard on that one just because it was sudden and soon. And I was still rebounding from the breakup of this engagement that I was in, of this horrible relationship that was sucking my soul dry. And I think a lot of that energy Jamie absorbed for me. And I think that's probably what did her in as well.
And it was some crazy, crazy relationships you've been
Oh
in.
yeah.
Give
Yeah.
a $15,000 ring to a
Yep.
homeless man
Mhm.
was by like, I have to ask what state of mind you were in. Were you just so angry or you're like, oh, he'll do him better? Like, that's a significant chunk of change.
Well, yeah, but not at the time because I was doing well at the time. I was making a lot of money. Like the Brazzers money around that time frame was coming in faster than I could spend it. And it was crazy. But really it was just because there was such bad energy with that ring. And I knew that someone else could benefit from it more so than I could. Assuming that that witch didn't cut out the stones and replace them with fake ones. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past her. So
But I do want to dive back to the LA situation because
sure.
that's really what sent you into doing porn.
Mhm.
Because you were still hungry, you were still trying to get it. You were already a professor again. You were
Mhm.
teaching on the college level, but you really wanted to get the break and you met the cat from CNN trying to make the next step. So I wanted to know what was a moment where you almost gave up that pursuit in LA, but said, you know what, let me stick it out. Because at the time you were with your girlfriend and she was also trying to be a rap musician. So you were really building up debt, putting everything on a credit card for two people, not even the one. It wasn't
Mhm.
that you were being irresponsible, it was just it was amounting. So what were some moments where it got really tough for you in LA?
I mean, I call it a dream debt. That's the debt I got into, chasing my dreams. When you're eating eggs, because that's all you can afford, because everything in LA costs money, even back in 2000 to 2003 when I was there. Um, but yeah, you're holding on, you're coming close. I mean, I did come close to having some legitimate projects take off, but you need good material, you need a little bit of luck, and I didn't have the luck at that point. So yeah, because I was having a mounting debt and because the porn jobs were coming easier, I went down that road and I kept walking on that road for, at that point in time, about another close to 20 years.
But again, shooting back to April 4th, 2002,
Right.
it's one of those moments where everybody says like there's no going back after this, but until you're actually in the moment, you really don't realize the heaviness.
Mhm.
What were some of your thoughts? Because your first shoot had porn legends, had a couple of porn fails too, but Ron Jeremy was on set. You had
Shay
inexperienced,
sites.
and it's just those two especially. Shay Sites, she's been on the show. She's lovely. She's wonderful.
Mhm.
What was your feeling from back in the day? I know you expressed it in the book, but now looking back on it, did you feel like you were ready for it? Do you feel like you were in over your head?
I mean, I knew I could handle the shoot, but I was a tad over my head that day, just because I hadn't done it before. Um, but it's not very hard to do. I just had, I found the footage of that first day, and I look back at it, and I had like a male veteran performer stepping on my toes, directing for me that day, or trying to. But we bit off more than we could chew. We tried to shoot 5 scenes. We wound up getting four done, but it was in a condo in the valley, kind of gross. Someone started smoking crack during it. I really felt grimy after it, but I guess you need those kind of days to kind of set the bar on if you're going to continue it. How are you going to do it, and how are you going to make it better? And I think I did. I think I did. I learned a lot that day. So it was the beginning of a very long, strange trip that I was on.
But you dove into it, and with all the skills you accumulated from school, you started learning how to edit. You started getting better at seeing how things were supposed to look on camera and
Mhm.
directing people. When was the first time you did a shoot and you went, huh, you know what? Not only do I have talent for this, but this was a smooth day. This really went well.
So I would tell you it was in Florida because after I failed miserably and had the typical Hollywood crash and burn, I went back to Florida. That was my second stint in Florida, and the porn snowball had already started going downhill. And that was when I met the eventual Brazzers guys. But by then I was in hotel rooms, shooting my own footage, editing my own footage. And when you're editing your own footage, you're seeing the mistakes you made, so you know how to shoot better. So you can shoot to edit. So the editing process is much quicker. And then once we started shooting for like Doctor Adventures, which was like the very, very beginning of Brazzers, that's when they said to me, look, we like you. Um, if you can go and start tapping into the LA talent pool, because South Florida was pretty amateur. You were shooting $500 boy girl scenes, with condom, and they weren't exactly the most. When I say boy girl, I'm sorry, boy girl is such weird terminology in porn. It really should be man woman. I mean, because boy girl just sounds weird, but that was like the common lingo for everything. But no, they said to me, look, if you can tap into the LA talent pool, we will keep you very busy. And that's what got me to Vegas because I didn't want to live in LA again. Too many bad memories, too expensive to live out there, too many taxes. So I set up shop in this house and somehow bet on myself. If there's a lesson here, if you've got a tickle in your belly and you're hungry and you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to just have your back against the wall and say, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to make this work. You have no idea what you can be capable of. And I learned that. And this whole Brazzers thing blew up. I think it was also good luck with the timing of everything. This was like not necessarily the dawn of the internet, but the internet was going. These guys knew how to market on the internet. This was before the tube sites. So it was just like, hey, man, I have a feeling about this. Let's just do it. Jamie, let's get into this truck. Let's go. Let's go have an adventure and let's see what happens. And well, shit, I have no regrets about it because it was wild. It was a wild 14-year journey from 2006 to 2020.
But you were so level-headed as well. Business first, and then we'll have our fun. You were
Yeah.
so good at making sure everything was organized, making sure all the paper was filed. As somebody that was entering, and especially like you said, they knew how to handle everything before the tube sites. A lot of legal issues come up in that industry, in the
Mhm.
adult entertainment industry. How did you stay relevant with your learning of it? Because not only were you doing the editing, the filming, all of that, orchestration, all the audio, but now you also have to worry about the legal aspect. So, what was your journey as far as ensuring you had the correct paperwork, making sure you were up to date with the legal new laws, etc.? What was that like for you when you first began? Because once you got it going, man, you were on it for the rest of your career.
I think it was, well, it was trial and error too, but it just seemed common sense. You know, if you're asking someone to have sex on camera, have a video consent of them doing it, video them signing the paperwork. Nowadays, there's something called revoked consent. So the rules, the old rules, gone, completely gone. And we could loop back to that eventually of where my head is right now with the industry, because it's, I mean, I'll tell you this, if anyone asks me, should I get into porn? I would say no. No, find something else to do with your life. But back then, it just seemed like common sense. And then you need to have, one person sneak drugs or alcohol or have that incident that really opens your eyes to be like, okay, now you have to have a hard line of, look, you can't drink, you can't do drugs, you can't do anything. And if I see it, the day is over because that becomes a non-compliant scene. So you run it like that and you just run things professionally. One thing that everyone always told me, they're like, you're kind of intimidating, like when you're like pacing or you've got that look on your face or you're running a day, people are not going to fuck with you. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to respect what this guy says because he's treating it like a business. He's not farting around. He's not trying to get laid. He's not, doing all these things, wasting time talking about bullshit. No, no, no. We're here to work. Let's get the day done so you can go back home. So I could go back home. So I can go back to my dogs. And that just continued. And the guys from Brazzers, the original, the OGs, saw it and they're like, you're our guy, man. And we're going to model everything after how you're doing it because you make us look good.
3,782 scenes you have done. And it's just so mind-boggling that you have all this material at your disposal. There was a incident on X recently that I wanted to hop to immediately
Sure.
because you were talking about how you found a computer, a laptop with some scenes that were technically in your domain and you wanted to use them for good. Could you
Mhm.
expand on how you believe that would work and what you were trying to do with it? Because you really have been diving into the charity aspect of, let me do the Humane Society, let me help with the SPCA. You're just trying to give back in positive ways.
Yeah, well, the standard operating procedure with the three iterations of the companies that I worked under, which was Manseth, Manwin, MindGeek, all the same company, just rebranded, different ownerships over the 14-year period. They would always have me sign a contract and they would always have me sign a transfer of copyright. And this was always the case, except when we were renegotiating my next contract and we reached an impasse. This was in September of 2011, where I was looking through my old laptop to see old emails, paperwork, contracts. And I discovered that literally because we were negotiating, we didn't come to terms. Part of me in hindsight thought that I was about ready to get to be terminated or they might terminate me because they really couldn't understand why, if the business is in LA, why we're having a Vegas studio. Um, but then weird things started happening in the business. The condom laws in LA started happening. OSHA was visiting sets. Then you had a Miami producer leak health information on a performer, and that caused internal chaos within the company. You have to remember, everyone back then was so anti-Manwin that anything that they could attack them on, they would. And then you have the owner get arrested for tax evasion. All this was happening during this time period. What was not being addressed? My contract. So here I am shooting all these scenes that are going to Montreal, that they're editing, that they're releasing on Brazzers, but there's no paperwork to back up the fact that I was one, an exclusive producer for them, and two, that my entity transferred the copyright to them. So you have literally hundreds of scenes with the top porn stars at the time. And people are like, yo, you should release them on the internet. Yo, you should sell them. Yo, you should do this. You should do that. Well, I have more than I need. I'm not money motivated anymore. Sure, money's nice. Money opens up options, but I'm good. My whole thing was, okay, porn people, here, I have all this content, some of which is you're in it. Do something good for the world. Work at a soup kitchen. Work at a dog rescue. Do anything that's good. I want to ask you, John, how many porn people do you think took me up for this so far?
Probably none.
None. And I've said it. I didn't say I believe this. I said the common perspective is that people in porn are self-absorbed and they are self-motivated for things that help them, and they're not capable of doing good things. Prove me wrong. So far, no one has proven me wrong, which is kind of the point to all this. Some people are like, you're going to get sued by them. I'm like, I don't really think so. I don't, but we'll see what happens. I've said a lot that they have not, like, after we split, they had an opportunity to sign me to an NDA for very cheap. They chose not to. They said no. Maybe they didn't think I was a threat. Maybe they think that me not knowing things for the last 16 years was a threat to them. So they decided not to. So what did I do? I wrote a book and I run my mouth whenever I possibly can. Because to be honest with you, MindGeek, the third iteration of the company, and now ALO, I don't believe they're good people. And I'm not going to sit and go along with everything, especially since I don't need the porn industry anymore. I'm gonna call things out. I'm gonna be outspoken. I'm gonna be the fly in the ointment.
I pray for your friend Ed and Senator. I know they having their legal conversations with you, just sitting there like, oh Lord, Vic, please listen to me, please.
Well, I haven't done anything yet. I've just talked. That's all I've done so far is talk.
Even that can get us in trouble. But
Well, yeah, libel, defamation, but that's hard to prove, and I can back up everything I'm saying.
good sir, with that statement,
Yep.
you have no interest in doing law for fun, especially how good the book itself, you would have moments where you would say something, even if it was advice from, Ed or the senator, but you would constantly say these law phrases, and I'm like, I think somebody has a very natural talent for that field. Is that something you would ever consider?
Yeah, that's just what the world needs, another lawyer. I mean, listen, it's good to know the law. It's good to listen to your lawyers, even though I really don't a lot. But like the truth is, you have to kind of gauge what is worth it for a lawyer. You know what I mean? And there are certain things like invasion of privacy where a lawyer would work for pro bono. So you have to learn some things like not easily identifiable. But when you're dealing with something like libel, which is very hard to prove, defamation, which is very hard to prove, not only is it difficult to prove, it's costly. So, you have to kind of deal with it. Now, the other part of it is true is that the company has been in the news. I'm just regurgitating things that are newsworthy, which excludes me from lawsuits. This is of public interest. This was something I learned in communications law my senior year of Syracuse. Being in SI Newhouse School of Public Communications, they give you the good education and you learn this stuff. So that's why I'm not really quite worried about it right now. But again, when it comes to actually doing things, if I released the hard drives that I'm staring at right now to the internet, maybe I'd be in trouble. But I haven't done shit yet, except for just beep, 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 just talk a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling it now. There's the Vic Lagina School of Porn, and then
Yep.
soon to be followed, the Vic Lagina School of the Law. Okay, so keep that in mind. You've had such an illustrious career. Again, I'm going to point people to the book for those stories. But when I first really was able to see the body of work, just to see the care of your content was on Instagram, seeing the little tidbits that you do for the video, taking audio from the video. And I also love the audiobook. Guys, I'm telling you, there's the book, which has got fantastic, not only drawings, but beautiful illustry of the English language. And then Vic also reads it. We'll get to who encouraged you to do that. But I wanted to go back to those videos because the way they were so enticing with the voiceover, and it was like you're really getting a peer behind the Iron Curtain. I didn't know that you and Keiran Lee had made up because the one video you did was kind of rough, but now you guys are on business terms.
It's reversed.
It
Reversed.
reversed.
Yeah.
Oh, please do tell.
So he was the biggest cunt that I ever dealt with in the industry, the biggest diva cunt I ever dealt with in the entire industry. Made my life difficult at every turn, even though I got him into Brazzers in late 2008. Um, just very difficult, very trying to wedge his way into every scene possible because every hole is a goal, mate. You know, that was his whole thing. And then eventually he became a producer. He wore down the head office to become a producer, effectively stealing work from me. And there was times where I wanted to drive out to LA and beat the shit out of him, literally. And I had to be talked down from the head office, like, no, please don't beat up our contract guy. It would be difficult for us. And I'm like, all right, fine, I won't do it. But we did eventually make up during one of the excursions to Montreal where I had to go to Canada. Never want to go back to Canada, but we went up there. And I think at that point in time, he chilled out. He became a father, which probably gave him some understanding of things. And also understood as a producer how hard the job was. And maybe he realized, I was kind of a dickhead. I made this guy's life harder than I should have. And I thought we were fine. It wasn't until I released the book and I was on a press tour, and my publicist at the time reached out to that podcast, Pillow, Dirty Pillow, whatever, Pillow Biter,
Pillow
whatever.
talk, maybe.
Yeah. She reached out to me. She said, um, he said no, and he mentioned Kieran's name. And so that leads me to believe that Keiran had something to do with that because I'm no longer with the company. He's still, the golden dick of Brazzers. So he wedged in there. So you know what, motherfucker? We're not good anymore, and I'm going to talk shit about you as much as I possibly can. I hear this guy. So he's back in England. He wants to come back to the United States. Okay, number one, no shit. But number two, what you should do is then, proclaim on the internet that the United States is better than England. When you get here, kiss the floor and, beg to become a citizen of this great country. But we'll see if that ever comes to be. But no, he's an awful human, completely. And everyone will probably say that in the industry. They said it to me. They don't want to say it publicly because I guess they still want to work for Brazzers for some odd reason, even though it's fallen incredibly over the years.
And speaking of that as well, you've always been a straight shooter. You've always spoken your mind and you've made it a point to say, like, I keep it real.
Yep.
And in the industry where it is a monopoly, that's a very difficult thing. It seems that now performers, because of the OnlyFans movement, are starting to get more opportunities. They are now in control of how their narrative is going to go,
Yep.
just just like other people are doing now. I wanted to know, with the recent court ruling,
Uh-huh.
where the Vixen contract star
Yep.
is now labeled an employee.
Yep. Yep.
I know you were kind of like, whoa, hold on, this is going to change the game. What were your thoughts on that? Do you feel like this is a wonderful win for performers and for the industry itself?
I have been saying the porn industry is dead and decaying. Okay, for a variety of reasons, for AI reasons, for the fact that OnlyFans has taken off. I don't understand why any performer in their right mind would dilute their brand by shooting for a dying company when they could just put all of their content, original content, on their own platform so that fans of them can only see it there. Why would you give it to a company for a one-time fee? Now, you have all these things already. Production's already been scaling back. Um, ALO, which is what they're called now, that was now the fourth iteration of the company, sued because of all of the monetizing of abuse that was on Pornhub over the last several years. Okay. They had to purge all of the unverified content. There's age verification in states that they block access to because they don't want to comply with the law. So you have a traffic-based business like Pornhub that supports everything that is just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed to the point where pay sites and all other budgets are starting to get slashed. There's less original content being shot. So you already have a porn industry that's in jeopardy, that's dying. These two things that have happened, the one you just mentioned with Kenzie Ann, whom I hope to talk to at some point in time. She followed me on Twitter. We'll see if there's a conversation. But there's the other aspect too, which is now revoked consent, which I'm being told Visa and MasterCard are allowing for revoked consent. So, what is revoked consent? That's when a performer has shot a scene, probably already has been paid, has definitely signed the release forms, and can say, you know what? I don't want that scene to go up anymore. Now, companies can be like, well, give us back their money. Well, okay, are you going to try to collect that money? Are you going to go through small claims to try to collect that money? So now you're going to have companies that are going to be like, I'm not going to shoot anyone anymore. Like I've said as a business owner, consent was already becoming cloudy when I was getting out of it. But what if you just completely wipe that off the table and you just do AI? You don't have consent issues. You don't have model issues. You don't have any kind of crew issues. You don't have any issues. So why would you invest all this money in production when you have all these forces working against you? Now, when the thing that you mentioned, which is now everyone is an employee, well, that just changes everything for every company because now you got to put them on payroll and they got to get paid taxes and it's going to cost more money. So, um, I don't know. I think these are the death blows that are going to actually happen to the traditional porn industry. I do.
What would you tell a performer now to do to ensure that not only that they keep the money, keep their rights, but also expand and like, hey, this is where the industry's going. This is where you have to look to.
Well, okay, so a lot of times when there was a performer, and we're talking, 15, 16 years ago, would come into my office, Vic, I want to get into porn. And I'd be like, now, mind you, there'd be some people in the industry, agents and otherwise, they'd start salivating like that. They're like, fresh meat. And I'm looking at him like a father figure. Like, sit down, young lady. Let me explain something to you. Like, first of all, how is your relationship with your family? Do you have a relationship? Because this is going to change this relationship and every relationship you have with someone for the rest of your life because the internet lives forever. Are you sure about that? Then you're like, are you okay being exposed to VD and probably contracting herpes? Because there's a lot of performers, most performers have genital herpes. They don't test for that because if they did, no one would be working. Okay. And I would explain all this stuff to them because I look at someone and to be honest with you, like when I see porn now, especially with younger women, I get sad. And the reason why I get sad is because I believe this person was sold a bag of shit, was told, oh, you can make so much money. Oh, women empowerment. Oh, take back your sexuality. All of this horseshit, which is all that is. It's a way for them to milk this person to take meat and throw it right back into the grinder. Okay? I would tell them, assuming this is what you want to do for your life, okay? Don't shoot for companies. If you have to for like 6 months to get your name out there, okay, but nowadays the muck is really gross. When I was swimming in the muck, it was pretty toxic. I say it's nuclear now. It is because what you have happened when OnlyFans took off post pandemic, you had a talent pool that was widening. So, more things are coming into it. There was microplasma genitalium, rectal swabs, throat swabs for gonorrhea, chlamydia. You had antibiotic or like strains of these diseases that were resistant to the antibiotics. Okay. All this is happening post COVID. So I'm like, okay, so now the muck that was toxic, where you had to maybe worry about getting ringworm, like as I did, and like weird shit like that. Now you have to worry about other stuff. And now here's the other part too. Most people are on PrEP. PrEP prevents HIV. Okay. Why are they on PrEP? Well, because they also widen the talent pool Everyone's working with everyone. Before, when I was in it, straight line. If you're on the gay side, you stay on the gay side. If you're on the straight side, you stay on the straight side. That include trans. Why? Because there's a higher HIV risk in that nature of sex. So now you have people who are on PrEP to prevent getting HIV, and you also have people who may have had HIV that are on viral inhibitors that can pass a test, and they don't have to reveal this because of HIPAA laws. Dude, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it for that what? $1,200 check, $1,000 check, the little bit of exposure? To answer your question, I would say focus on your and your brand only. You want to do boy girl? Fine, do it on your own OnlyFans. Keep that content exclusive so that anyone wants to see you have sex, they have to pay your OnlyFans. That would be the advice I would give to them. The first rule is don't do it. Is there anything else, young lady, that you want to do with your life? Anything at all? I will tell you also that there are some people I met that I say, well, thank goodness there is a porn industry because talking to you, looking at you, knowing that you don't really seem to want to do anything, well, it's good that there's an industry that you can work in that will enable you to give back in the form of taxes, paying rent, putting money back into the economy. So yeah, but for the most part, if the person has a working brain and dreams beyond porn, I say chase those instead because this is not worth it anymore.
I remember especially the first time I was made aware of an HIV scare in the adult entertainment industry. I listened to James Dean explain why performers shouldn't have to wear condoms. And I'm not trying to rip my man's. I just thought he did a very poor job of bringing it to, hey, I'm in this industry. This is why I'm sitting here, but I'm not in this industry. You have to explain on my level why. So I wanted to get your take on protection in the industry, having that you also had concerns at times. You also slept with particular performers and with just the thinking of like, what was it about the condom being introduced into scenes that was such a controversial topic when it comes to not just the health protection, but production?
Okay, so let's rewind to the time frame we're talking about. We're talking around 2015, when the rules of gay on one side, straight on the other, okay, the higher risk on one side. And also performers did have a say on who they would want to work with. If they sensed that someone might be a crossover, they could say, I want to work with them, even though August Ames was bullied for that and eventually took her own life because of that.
And if I may interrupt for the
Sure.
crowd, so they know, it wasn't so much that it was, oh, people being promiscuous in this way. It was more so that people in those particular areas were sleeping outside of the industry, and those cultures were more susceptible to HIV. It's not just the fact that the person's straight or trans or gay, it's just what was happening in the more loose sleeping around community, as it were.
Sure, sure. And a lot of performers, I mean, they were keeping tabs on a lot of people, and they knew if someone was doing privates or they're doing privates without a condom. I mean, look, it was widely known that a lot of people were escorting. The question was, were they a safe escort or were they a dirty escort? To use those terms, because those are the terms being used at the time. Um, but with, I would say, James Dean or even the argument of most performers are like, well, one, I don't like the feel of a condom. My body, my choice. So you had, and look, there were some performers like Audrey Batoni. She would insist that the person that she works with had a test that was either 3 days or newer before they worked together. So you can mandate these things to say, I'd rather do it this way because I don't want to have sex with a condom. And I mean, talking like as a dude, like I don't like using condoms. One, I have a very strong sense of smell, and the smell of condoms is awful. It smells like burnt latex, and it really is a mood killer. In porn, the common complaint was it was a killer of the fantasy. So that was another reason why they didn't want to have condoms in porn at the time. So that was the reason for it. Nowadays, HIV is not a death sentence, but do you want to be on these meds for the rest of your life? I wouldn't. if I'm a dude and I catch a sense that a performer had an HIV diagnosis but is on viral inhibitors, do I think my junk would work? Probably not. It wouldn't, you know. So yeah, it's just gotten very wonky to the point where I'm like, why bother anymore? Like, if there was money to be made, I would have continued working post pandemic. I could have eked it out for another year or two, but I always had a bullshit to dollar ratio, and I felt that I would be working more and making less because a lot of people would be canceling because the OnlyFans money was better. And it just became a point where I was like, I think I'm done.
I wanted to know who you thought you has done the industry best. You would probably be the standard because you lasted the longest. And not only did you last the longest, you did it on your terms. Very heavy metal, very rock and roll. I hope you like Black Sabbath family. But
Uh,
I think of people that you've also praised in the industry. You just did an interview with Ava Devine not too long ago, and you praised her for not only being a businesswoman, but truly loving it. That story you had with the house situation and the older man coming through, I'm like, this
Chuckles
guy.
McKnuckles.
I'm like, yo, but she has a love for it, and I'm a big proponent of there are people that are more sexual and they're needed because there are people that aren't able to express themselves. There are people that aren't able to get dates, etc., for whatever reason. Who else do you think has done it right as a performer or just as an entity in the industry?
Okay, so there are a lot of people, I call them sad clowns pretending to be happy clowns that are telling themselves, oh, I love the industry. Oh, I love having sex on camera. Oh, I love this. Oh, I love that. And some of them are no longer with us because either they overdosed or killed themselves. Okay. So you really have to be mindful of those who are genuinely interested and really love their job. One name comes to mind, but besides Ava Devine, Lauren Phillips. She says, I love having sex for money on camera. I love having sex in front of people. I mean, she said all this stuff. Um, I would be inclined to believe her out of the sense I get, but I think for every one of those, you have 10 who are saying it because that's what the fans want to hear, that are saying it because this is the image that their fans want to believe that is actually making money. But the truth is, again, sad clowns pretending to be happy clowns, saying these things over and over and over again. So either they believe them themselves or it makes the reality more palatable.
When I think about your time in the industry, there's a lot of negatives.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people that constantly, not just you, but other people come up. Dr. Evil, notoriously terrible person.
Yep.
I don't know him. I can't speak about him, but I know what people have said about him. So that's all I can go off on. But I wanted to know what were some of the people that really were the lights of the industry, at least to you. Your production crew, fantastic people. Even them doing the afterwards when they all said thank you. Some of them were in the book saying certain things, but who were some people that were just genuinely good people that even though it's the industry and things get rough and you have to put your foot down, they still went the moral path.
As far as good humans, I'll put Julia Ann as the top of the list simply because of the amount of dogs that she has saved. I mean, like she's going to be a saint, crowned a saint because of all the beautiful souls and angels of dogs that she's saved. I can't really speak for what other really good quality humans were. I could say one of my exes, Jackie in the book, she's got a good heart, even though she holds on to the past and she's gotten quite jaded. She has a good core. Okay. There's others that I met along the way too. But as far as being lights, I think there was a lot of professionals. I think there was a lot of them that had good work ethic, which I always respected. You know, if you're there wanting to do a great day, have a great day and a great scene and put your best foot forward, you already got me. Just follow my lead. You don't have to match my intensity. We're going to get through this. Just follow me, and we're going to get through this one. And there was a lot of them, you know, but unfortunately for every one of those, you had five of them who were complete shitbags that had no respect for your time or anything other than their own bullshit. So I respected the ones with good work ethic. I can name a bunch like Phoenix Marie. She had a good work ethic. Luna Starr had a great work ethic. Kendra Lust had a great work ethic. Male performers. I mean, Marcus Dupree, you can hear whatever you want about that guy. All that guy wanted to do was churn out a good scene and really have a rocking day and treat it like his body like a workhorse. James Dean wanted to have good products. And there were certain male performers I knew I could lean on because I'm not the one in there. I'm not the one that's like inside their vagina. So sometimes you got to lean on a dude to be like trusting their gut, their instinct, their lead, because they know what you need to run camera and have a good angle and a good shot out of all of this, and to achieve the objective. There was a lot of dudes that were like that. Um, so I mean, as far as lights as humans, it's tough because I didn't really get to be close to some, but there's some that I respect the hell out of because they were just rock stars at their job.
And speaking of Jackie,
Yep.
man, what a fascinating story. She's the one I feel I might be pulling a Howard Stern. I know you've been on the show, so don't make me
Yeah.
feel bad if I do a bad Howard impression.
Uh,
It seems like she was really the one that you were destined to be connected to for life.
well,
And
it's actually funny. She was literally here like before this interview. She hit me up. She's like, I want to lay out. I need some color. I was actually at Costco at the time. I said, yeah, go on in. I said, I got an interview at 1, but we're still friends. We weren't talking for a minute because she gets into relationships where she she doesn't want to be alone. So she gets herself in these bad relationships, and these boyfriends then say that she can't talk to me, even though I said that's a red flag. But now she's single again, and we're able to talk. We're not physical in any way, shape, or form, but because we have such a rich history, we're kind of like an old married couple where we're like, cool like that. But yeah, I mean, both of us were not good boyfriends or girlfriends at the time. Okay. I'm not going to blame the cocaine, although the cocaine was a big part of it. I will blame the fact that I was in an industry where things were effortless. And I had been in a relationship where I was being accused of doing things and I wasn't doing anything. And once that started happening again, I was like, I have a feeling she's up to something, but you know what? I'm going to do what I want anyway. I should have broken up with her. That's the lesson I learned. That's the growth, human growth that I learned during that relationship. But I mean, like dude, she was giving out hand jobs at the strip club. Okay. I mean, it's not like we were both innocent. We enjoyed each other's company, under the guise of monogamy, but we were both doing unscrupulous things on our own. And that's eventually why we broke up.
but just hearing how you had these moments where she was fighting to keep it going. You were
Yep.
fighting. It was like every time one was fully committed, the other one was, we're on the gravy train. EC3, 3K, I'm sorry, is the one. Sorry, wrestling fan.
Yeah.
3K being an issue as well. But you saw something in her. And all said and done, I think the moment that it really clicked that no matter what happens, you guys are always there for you is when she gave you the rose at graduation. You helped her get her GED.
Like, yeah, she gave me the, yeah.
You helped her get a GED. You helped her so many times from jumping over the ledge or suicide, constantly contacted her mom to take care of her. What did that rose mean to you when all those other people in her life were there and you're the one who got it at graduation? After
I,
telling her for years you could do better, you could do better, she finally achieved it.
I guess because I achieved GOAT status. I was the best she ever had. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I mean, listen, her mother was there. Her dirty hooker friend, 3K was there. And I got the rose. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I did tell her, get your GED. Yeah, do more. Do more with yourself. Like I did push her in that direction because I saw that she had it. Um, it was just that it's very difficult to have relationships while you're in the porn industry. That's the lesson I learned, and I think both of us. The prospect of being alone was too strong, so we just put up with the shit to chase the good times instead of just facing reality and being like, I think we're just better off as friends, and which is where we are now. So it all worked out in the long run.
You've had so many crossroads, and the one thing other than the paternity issues you ran into was you had a moment with Jackie. She confronted you for cheating.
Yeah,
And you went over this idea of like, hey, guys, you're told, even if you got proof, even
yeah,
if you've got your dead to rights, pull a Shaggy, admit nothing.
yep,
And you said you saw the change in her eye from a loving gaze to this fury, this like break.
yep.
And I wanted to know, just as a person now that has a really high, I know it sounds crazy to you people, but he has been called a mensch. I'll let y'all know
Hmm.
what that is in a
Hmm.
second. Oh, you familiar with that word? I'm not.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank God. But being where you're at now, being a straight shooter, but also being somebody who's dealt with doing the right thing and always having that struggle, what would you tell a man now who's in a relationship in that situation that wants to stay in that relationship? Do you think it's better to come clean, have nothing in between you guys and work through that? Or do you think it's like, no, just stay the course because the pain of that break, that love in the eye to that evil eye is such a it's a very devastating feeling.
No, what I would say is, and I would have, if I would have taken if I were to get into my DeLorean and go 88 miles an hour back to that time, what I would have done was broken up with her the first accusations of cheating where I wasn't, instead of just doing what I was doing. Um, I think when you're in a relationship, you should be committed to that person, assuming it's not an open thing, which I've done that, and I have thoughts on that now as well. But you shouldn't be watching porn and beating off if you have a girlfriend. When I was in my most recent relationship, I wasn't watching porn. I was having sex with my girlfriend. You should just do right by people. Karmically, it will catch up to you if you're not. So just do the right thing, bite the bullet if it's difficult. Having your cake and eating it too is wonderful, but someone ultimately always gets hurt when you're doing that. So if it's one of those situations where, just set standards for yourself where, you know what, you're not going to take this shit. And if it's going to continue, then you have to make the break. That would be what I would tell people. Just make the hard decision instead of, trying to get everything that you want out of it.
It seems like all your lessons, all the huge lessons came from these spectacularly crazy relationships. And of course, I wanted to mention the story where you were with a performer. She wanted you to go to her lesbian girlfriend's room and then have them all watch you. And I'm just like, what is it about this guy's hot tub that these ladies just want to keep on coming back for more? Um,
Uh,
But I sit there and I see these stories where it's like these are devastatingly like troubling things. And you said you use guilt to your advantage, always wanting to do the right thing. I mentioned mensch. That is basically the Yiddish word for a good moral person, a person
mhm.
that always is trying to do right. What do you think it is about you that makes you go that route of like just do what you're supposed to do the right thing? And like you said, man, when you're doing it, just bite the bullet. What is it about your life? What is it about you that you proceed to do the correct thing?
I think it's just important to be a good human. I could say I was definitely corrupted for a few years in the industry for sure. That's when it's part two of the book. Darkness washed over the dude, and it's absolutely true. It was after my horrible engagement, the death of my dog, and that's when things just kind of went downhill after that, the bad drugs included. But eventually, there's a tug between light and dark. And fortunately, light won out. And I think that says more about what I have inside and what my core is made of just doing what is karmically good and karmically just. Because karma is real. I've seen it be so swift and so quick to the point where, you can't doubt that it exists. So do good things, help out where you can. You know, that's why I said like this good deeds for content initiative that's going to go absolutely nowhere. It's the message that counts. Try to be a good human. Don't be so selfish. Help out where you can. Whatever you think you do, little things matter. They eventually build into bigger things. So I don't know what is in me. I think good upbringing. Um, my next book talks about a time in my life that I glanced over really quick in the first book that really opened my eyes as to setting the foundation of not only work ethic, but like being balanced and having a good core. That's the next book that comes out. It's a fun book too, and it only took me 7 weeks to write. Far cry from filthy. Um, but yeah, I just think it's you should always aspire to be a good person. Always.
It's a wonderful quote. I have to ask because when I first picked up Filthy, I thought it was going to be kind of like the heroin diaries for the porn industry. I thought it was
Mhm.
going to be like a Nikki Sixx situation, and it turned out to be way more smoother than that was. But I never really ascertained. I might have missed it listening, but I never ascertained when you started doing cocaine. And there's the story of, doctor. She got you in the operating room. She got you watching the surgery as a non-doctor. If I was that person on the table, I'd be flipping out. But you know, she had a coke habit, and I was wondering because you have mentioned how a lot of people in the industry take these things to numb themselves. You were taking it to numb yourself. You had a very traumatic situation when you went over to Israel at 15 and your mom passed away.
Mhm.
That can have lingering effects. Tommy Gunn talks about the story when his mom passed, and you could see the lingering effects. I wanted to know when was the first time you actually did cocaine, and was it mainly because you were trying to steal away from the hurt of not only working in porn, but what happened to your mom? Because it's very technical situation when you found your friend. As you notice, I haven't been mentioning names, but you
Right.
found your friend, and you basically had a Rick James moment where he found Sly, and you saw your friend. He was not doing too hot, and you said that can never be me. And then you started going down the same route.
Mhm. It wasn't because of my mother. I talk about all of that in this next book, incidentally, because that takes place shortly after when all that happened to me. It was more right after the breakup with the ex-fiance. And I guess also because my family was roped in to a lot of the bullshit that she created and how they were affected by it. That's where it all started. Literally, we broke up and I kicked her out of the house in April of 2010. And that month, a drug dealer that I knew, I was like, hey, man, I think I want to buy a little bit of the AO off you. And it was like a gram. And you start tapping into it, one key bump, then you're going back for another one and another one, and then you've got this, you know, the cocaine train starts. And that's really where it all started. It wasn't really until I broke up with Jackie and that whole thing where I was like, you know what? Oh, and also starting to write Filthy. I think, when I was just finishing up the relationship with Jackie, that's when I started writing Filthy. I was getting myself all the way up until 2015. And let me tell you something, dude. When you're writing your story and you're recapping it, you're like, okay, maybe I need to tone things down a little bit. If you want to make it to the finish line, yo, dude, hit the brakes because you're going way too fast and you're going to crash and burn. And that I think was what started tapering me off of the bad drugs and just focusing more on the music, the good people around the music and the music festivals and more of the hallucinogens and everything else, which did heal me in a lot of ways. And the great healing was post porn when I was getting filthy ready and finishing that up and smoothing it all out. And that's when I was like, okay, dude, you're now effectively rewiring your brain. And now I can't even recognize the guy I was 6 years ago, after living in this peace and solitude and away from the crazy energy and the bad drugs and the booze and all of it. It's gotten more about really honing myself into being a better human and a more balanced human.
Could you specify the moments though? Because you mentioned the Jazz Fest incident. It wasn't an incident, sorry, it wasn't that dramatic. But you were there, you were on the shrooms, and you were like, I need to get clean. So
Yep.
then you started that trying to get better. And then again, there was the incident where you had the guys over, you were with your friends, and then the girls were doing bumps. I'm not going to tell people what type of bumps because they got to read the book, figure out what was happening. But you were sitting there and you're just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And it just seems like really the book was the nail in the coffin for you to step away from that lifestyle. But there
Yeah.
were steps to you getting clean and sober. First, you kicked the cocaine, and then the alcohol was helping you spiritually. But then
Uh,
you even decided to walk away from that. So, what were those key moments to you?
I just think it's really like, okay, like I lived a rock star life. I mean, without question. And there's certain points that, okay, dude, where do you go from here? Seriously, where do you go from here? Like, I watched the Billy Idol documentary the other night, and I mean, he went pretty hard. I mean, I never went that hard. But I mean, like, you have to realize, and I guess also the fact that you're seeing people die and dropping, and you're realizing about fentanyl, and that you can get a bad batch of coke and your life is over. You know, there's a certain point where you're like, is this bullshit really worth dying over? And yeah, I think you keep pushing it as far as you can go. You're like, dude, where else can you go with it? I think that's really the voice in my head was like getting louder and louder. Like, all right, dude, well, where do we go from here?
So, as far as spiritually now, because you mentioned soul intake
Yep.
and making sure that you're at peace, you manifest. And I wanted to know when you manifest, how do you do it? There's some people that do the prayer, they pray to God. Some people, they sit down, they do the Michael Beckwith meditation, they try and get one with the universe. Some do Hindu meditation, Buddhist meditation. How do you set the goal to start? And I was wondering if also the Jewish upbringing, because in the Old Testament it says, of course, write it down, tarry on it, and then believe it'll happen, it will happen. How do you proceed to manifesting things? Because I know you want to take Filthy and you kind of want to do a TV show in production. I feel like that would be the ultimate of like, hey,
Uh,
that
yeah.
is the cream of the crop right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. What do I do? I literally ask out loud. Now, here's the thing, man. And I don't know if you subscribe to this, but I believe we reside in a simulation. I believe we have a simulation master. I do. That is kind of sitting and watching and hitting a button here and there, making little things happen.
Like The Sims.
Yeah. If I know this sounds fucking insane, but it's been working like that recently on little things. Now, we're not talking things that are out of reach. Like, hey, because you know, I now rent my casita, you know, just for extra money. And it's like, hey, I could use a rental this weekend, Simulation Master. Wouldn't you know it? My phone goes off like literally within 2 hours for a booking for that weekend. And I'm like, and I start laughing. I'm like, thanks, Simulation Master. I appreciate it. Now, it sounds crazy. I sound like a complete Fruit Loop. I get it, but it works. It's working for me. So when I do manifest things, it's just small, modest things that really aren't like anything too crazy. Um, but when you have everything that you've wanted and you need in life, I don't really need a lot. I don't really ask for a lot. Good health for people, good health for friends. You're always putting that out there. But like for little things, just to kind of make like the journey monetarily easier, it's just been happening like that. So yeah, I've asked, let's get someone to option Filthy. Let's do that. Let's that's the next move. Like a worthy producer that understands how adaptable this material is and how visually amazing it would be. A true story about the porn industry that actually happens, that's socially relevant. It's good material there. It'll eventually get discovered. It's Filthy has been doing its own thing the past couple of years since it's been out. People keep discovering it. People keep finding it. My goal in the very beginning was creating a cult classic, and we are well on our way. We are.
That's pretty fantastic. And shout out to Breeze and Ed because they were really, I don't want to say it was just Breeze doing, you did all the hard work, but they were really the ones that pushed it into motion and helped bring it to life. Ed was constantly like, hey man, you got to put your story out there. And then Bree, after meeting her on one of the music trips, I think it was Jam Cruise to be fair,
Yep.
but she's the one who did the artwork and really
Yep.
like that's half the battle. Cover
Yep.
got me hooked. I'm like, oh, I got to check this out.
Yep.
With Filthy. What was the hardest thing to put in the book? Because there's the section with the performer, as you mentioned, consent, non-consent, and that particular,
Mhm.
I won't mention names, but that was one where the guys were like, "Hey, we're your lawyers. Please don't mention this or be careful with it." For you on a personal level, what was something during your spiritual cleansing that was like, this was really hard for me to rehash and go over again?
Yeah, when the girl recapped her bad experience on my set, that put in motion, me eventually questioning whether or not being in porn made sense anymore on a liability wise because the rules were changing. We had measures in place. We had check-ins, like sign-ins. We had sign-outs. When you watch a scene and you cannot delineate whether or not this person is putting on a good performance or is legitimately uncomfortable, but is doing the sign out, saying that she's fine with a smile on her face and laughing, but then 2 years later puts out this anonymous, horrible to read post about her horrible experience that the video completely contradicts in a lot of ways. I'm not saying she didn't have issues. I'm saying she never verbalized them. I had no idea about them even days or weeks after the shoot. So to hear about them 2 years later, you're like, what the fuck, man? And when all of that was validated by the head office that genuinely had your back for the longest time and trusted your judgment, you're like, well, I don't even know. So I was just confused. I'm still confused about all of it. But putting in her words about her experience, knowing that my goal every day was to make a performer have a comfortable and great day. And it's not always going to go that way. Sometimes things don't work out. It's just how do you battle through? How do you work through? And is everyone okay at the end of the day? I thought we were. But then to know that it wasn't, it was jarring. But then putting those words in the book, unfiltered and unedited, it wasn't easy to do. But I felt it was necessary to kind of paint the picture of, yo, I'm on a slippery slope here. Maybe it's time to say bye and say it was a great journey and move on to whatever is next.
And you never want to hurt somebody just from a human standpoint.
Of
You
course
don't want
not.
to,
Of course
you
not.
and regardless of whatever's said, it's still going to impact you. It's still upsetting to know, like, did
Yeah.
I have it? Did I not partake in this? You know, I find it interesting. Back to the man above, because you did say, like, it sounds crazy the way you explain it, but I'm also like, well, it's kind of crazy saying a guy died and came back 3 days later. It all sounds kooky. But one magical moment you had, it was your 50th birthday, you were with Lisa and you're holding the book, and it was also the solar eclipse.
Mhm.
It was like everything was supposed to be happening. It was like, oh, this was meant to be. You mentioned in that story how from years on since the release, you've had people tell you like, hey, this is a great book. Ladies, non-industry workers, ladies coming up and say, hey, I would have never listened to this, but this is fantastic. What was one of the best compliments you got that was heartfelt that people tell you you're great all the time. People tell you this, but sometimes somebody will tell you like, oh, this was really good. And it kind of rocks you like, oh, I wouldn't have anticipated that. Because I would have thought you having the relationship you have with the Howard Stern show, listening to him growing up on WYSP, even though I'm a
Mhm.
WMMR guy,
Mhm.
having that mentioned over the air would be something that felt gratifying. Having people that say like, "Oh, I went through the same thing," would be gratifying. What's a moment that you remember of like, "Oh, you know what? I appreciate that this book is helping somebody."
When someone called it a masterpiece, I was like, okay, that's great. When people tell me that I move them to tears, because I've always viewed myself as kind of an anomaly in porn. I'm not the norm, I'm not like the majority of them. Which I guess the bigger battle that I've been dealing with is can a pornographer or former pornographer output a good or great piece of literature? Most people would say no. But the people who've said, like, dude, like this was really good. I was not expecting that. And they say that they don't want to be insulting, but they're like, I was actually like blown away. Like you really rocked the shit out of it. And well, I put a lot of work into it. You can't just release something quick. I'm always about quality anyway, always have been. But when they say that, or I move them to tears, or any of it, I mean, that's when I was like, okay, I did it. Now, for my next trick is writing a good second book, which I think I have. So, this writing thing, I'm actually good at it, and I'm getting better at it too the more I write.
But you're also well versed. Like you dropped George L. Orwell a couple of times,
Yeah,
and you've mentioned other artists, and of course back to George Harrison. You
yeah,
know, not that I'm a
mhm,
Paul fan, but that's
right.
okay. But I feel like the stigma or stigmas in pornography kind of get to people in the industry because a lot of the people, you got business women, women that are articulate, women with are degrees, men as well in the industry, and I see this self like I don't believe in myself in certain aspects of what they're really good at and what they love.
Hmm.
That they're not saying like, oh, I'm terrible, but it's like when it comes to their art, when it's like something outside like music or it comes to something, they'll kill it and they'll be like, yeah, well, I'm not really good at it. I'm like, ah, where's this coming from? I feel like the stigma kind of, you hear it so much and it starts influencing the way you think.
Maybe, but I also say something too. Listen, this can sound cold, but it's very hard to take someone seriously when I've seen their asshole. Literally, when you've shown your asshole to the world, when you're winking your asshole for tips, and this is the whole thing of painting yourself into a corner. Like the minute you do that, people are going to look at you differently. So that shaky self-confidence comes from the fact that they did things in their life that maybe they've moved on from. Maybe they're not doing anymore. But people don't forget the internet lives forever. So that's probably where I think it comes from. For me, I never was a performer, even though I thought about it for a brief moment during the pandemic of launching an OnlyFans. But then the moment of like, dude, what are you doing? Like, no, like, can't you do anything else with your life? Because if you're doing this, then you're just saying one thing. One, you need the porn industry to function, and that's your identity. And two, you can't do anything else with your life. And once I realized that, I was like, and the fact that I wasn't really trusting the girls in the industry anymore. So why would I stick my dick in them and try to get informed consent for a scene? It just seemed like all bad ideas. And that's where I was like, you know what? I am not going to do this. I'm going to stick with the course of being the dude behind the scenes, using my brain, using my voice to tell a story. And if I put the work in, like I did with everything else in life, I'm going to output a good product. And, getting the book done was an accomplishment, but getting good reviews and kudos and people looking at it like, dude, that was really good. Especially, you love the audiobook. I love the audiobook. I think the audiobook was so much fun to put together. But the fact that I can do that that's in me, that I'm capable of that, and that people have agreed with the fact that it's good, hey man, I feel good about myself on that one.
It just reminds me of the interview I did with Holly Randall and how she was expressing her love for different things. And you did mention when I posted the interview,
Uh-huh.
you said, "Hey, I've been trying to get on. We'll talk about it later." So I wanted to know what your experience with Holly is because when it comes to the upper tier people that are loved in the industry, she is definitely one of them for what she's done with her podcast, what she's done with directing. Same thing with trying to make performers comfortable, and she's a legacy. And it reminded me of when I was talking to her on the podcast. She said, I've tried to get people on the show, but I have to hire up to answer to other people. And
Hmm.
I wanted to know what the situation was with that. Is that good? Is it bad? Uh,
Well, okay. So answer your question. I know Holly. I've sit in the same rooms with Holly during AVN with the bosses, voicing complaints about how they were running things, how they were casting things, how they were trying to shoehorn performers into certain concepts. Now, this is, 7 years ago. The business has changed a lot. And she would nod with me and we were cool. But she was still on the take with MindGeek after I had left. And, look, she is in the family business. Let's be honest here. Her mother, Suze, was the one, that was her job. And then she taught Holly, she taught her daughter how to do the job. So she comes from a background that, again, I don't buy into this argument. The woman empowerment, the sex positivity, all of that. I think that is an excuse that people sell people in the industry so people can live with the choices they make that they can't, recover from. That's my honest opinion. with my message, and I would love to go toe to toe with Holly on her podcast. But I think number one, she doesn't want to piss off the monopoly by having me on. I don't necessarily think she approves my message. And I don't necessarily think that she could really battle me in a way where she would actually win a debate about all of this. So I think she's one of the people that's selling that whole thing of you can make a lot of money, you could take back your sexuality, empowerment, all that stuff. I have the complete opposite message. I'm saying, okay, if you're going to do it, okay, go full throttle. But let's not put lipstick on this pig. Let's own it. Like you're choosing to do this because you're choosing not to do anything else with your life. Let's be real. Um, and I just can't justify telling people it's worth it, knowing that it's decaying. If it was going so well for her, would she be doing these other things now? What is it, like a magazine or something
Yeah,
happening?
that was part of the conversation. So Wedding Mag would be, hey, I can't get every performer on there. So with this magazine, this gives back to the community that's given me so much. So now everybody has an opportunity to share their story, and it's doing a great job of addressing different things in the industry, different performers' lives, different uh, ideas, ideologies that people want to come up with, like the importance of sex work for people with disabilities, the importance of this charity and how porn stars can do their business. So I did want to ask because the way you're speaking sounds very reminiscent of the different ideologies of thoughts I've
Hmm.
seen in the States. So my dad was kind of cut from a different cloth. That cloth was brutally honest, but we love
Hmm.
you just the same. You know, you're from the Philly area. We'll
Hmm.
cuss you out, but we have
Right.
your back. And there's a new school of thought where certain concepts change, certain ideologies change, and it happens from generation to generation. Hey, this is acceptable, this isn't acceptable, this is to be viewed this way, this isn't to be viewed this way. Do you think it is a difference of experience and time? Like you came up from a different time where, hey, trans performers don't work with regular performers, that it's always just been that way. You grew up with a time where America was like, hey, you know what? You put your head down, you don't tell anybody your problems, and you keep pushing. Versus this new generation, it's like, hey, listen, that may have worked for you guys. We kind of have a different approach and view on life.
Hmm.
I see these two ideologies clashing, but I also
Hmm.
see an argument for both.
No, no, it's valid. What you're saying is valid. This is very reminiscent. You talk generationally, right? Um, this sounds like me saying to my kid, like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm turning into Clint Eastwood. I'm saying, don't be so sensitive. I'm saying if you're going to be in the porn industry, you have to have thick skin. I'm saying all of these things. Now, I will shake my head and my finger at the younger generations and say, toughen up. I will do that. And I'm not going to take away from your argument because I've heard it before. And I have seen that, I guess, in play with the younger generations where they are more receptive, they are more sensitive, they are more open to a lot of different ideas that say my generation isn't. You're not wrong. I will give you credit. There's one thing about me, I will always acknowledge when someone has a valid point and they're right, and I won't tell them otherwise. But I still believe that it is a decision that once you cross into it, especially as a performer, there's no coming back from it. There isn't. And you have to be fully informed of all of that before it goes in. And I think there's a failure to do that on a lot of levels. And what gets in the way of that is the greed and the vampiric tendencies of others. And I can't really say, the porn industry is thriving. It's not. So I can't argue for someone, it's a good idea to get into it. I think if you were to ask Holly Randall, how's the porn industry doing compared to how it was doing when we were making the good cheddar way back when as producers, if she's being honest, she will give you the answer to say it's really not going very well. But I think you need to say these things. You need to tell people this stuff instead of kind of selling a fallacy because again, it's something that someone can't retrieve once they've gone past it, even though revoked consent is actually becoming a thing. So, What do I know? Maybe there it is retrievable, you know?
But I've always appreciated your candidness to say,
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm willing to have that art. We're going to disagree,
Right.
but you're always fair to be like, hey, I see where you're coming from. Let's talk this out. I feel like that's a lost art nowadays
Yeah, of course it is. 100%.
because, again, it's such a touchy subject. I think as far as the industry you knew, I completely agree, but I can understand this empowerment movement as far as putting money in their pocket. I forget the American Pie chick. What's her name? Shannon. I forgot Shannon's last name.
Shannon Elizabeth.
But she
Yeah.
made the point of joining
Yeah.
OnlyFans recently. It's like, hey, they were directing the narrative. Now I do. And she made it. I can see where women can have that sense of empowerment. And I've seen women that was like, hey, they took this risk and they made it pay off. But I
Yeah.
also have the fear of, hey, it could go south really quickly. You have to be very cognizant of that.
Well, no, yeah, you also have to look at the odds, okay, of the super earners versus everyone else. Okay. Sure, some of these girls are making, what's there's one chick that was making what, like $80 million a year or something like that. Well, let's be very clear, that's not the norm. The norm is the girl that might be making $1,000 a month or a little bit more because of the super saturation of the market. So I think it's very important that it's just full informing of everything. And I think that has been failed by a lot of people. So, yeah, I mean, and Shannon Elizabeth, look, she's the American Pie girl. Of course, she's going to have popularity. Of course, it's going to save her. Drea De Matteo from The Sopranos, OnlyFans saved her from bankruptcy. I mean, all of these things, there are stories within it. I'm just saying, and let's say like sex workers, prostitutes, okay? Necessary. Necessary, should be legal, should not be criminalized. There's a need out there for people, okay? You want to do that? I am not going to judge or whatever else. There's still good money in that because the physical form of flesh is something that is a commodity that is needed. Porn, production of porn, I don't really see it anymore, especially since there's so much content out there already, and the fact that content of the future is being made in the computer.
With your abilities, would you do voiceover work as well? Is
Yeah,
that
I would love to. I would love to do it. I would love to narrate more. That's kind of why I was doing the little vignettes on my Instagram and X, where I was taking footage from my old hard drives and a day that went sideways and explaining that story. Or, like some people were saying to me, "Oh, you're coming off as bitter. You're coming off as angry," and I'm like, "Well, what exactly do I have to be angry about?" Seriously, like I've got a beautiful house I live in. I've got more than I need in life. I don't have to work anymore. My money makes money while I sleep. Um, I've had sex for 5 lifetimes, really great sex for 5 lifetimes. I still have my health. I'm still keeping it together physically. So, what exactly am I bitter about? Calling out assholes? Well, yeah, I'm going to do that because I guess some have said that's my brand, to really come at the people that have it coming to them because no one does it, but I can. I have that voice. But yeah, going back to it, I would love to do more voiceover work. I really would. And those videos were part of that.
just give us a price, good sir, because this is a business. We gotta treat you right.
Yeah.
Wanted to know what is a industry rumor that has been around that you wish people would stop talking about and just kind of get a grip on it. And not so much like, oh, it's the fantasy aspect, so this is real work. I'm talking something that is like, hey, people really don't know and they need to stop. One rumor that keeps on coming up in all my research, no matter who I speak with, is Naomi Russell. Nobody knows what happens to her. If she just bowed out of the industry or if she passed in the industry. But that's one where people keep on mentioning. Is there something like that that you wish, like, hey, people, come on, let it go?
Well, I mean, I think someone needs to be informed of. I mean, did you see the one on Shyla Styles that I did?
That you mentioned in the book as well, that it was a conspiracy to cover up her murder as opposed to her actually dying from drug use. If
Yeah.
you mention it, because I know you two were close, and of course the story with her coming over and etc.
Yeah, but as far as like the fallacy of the industry, I mean, I'm sure it existed on some sets, but the whole concept of a fluffer, Like we had them on that male talent live shit show that I produced, but that was like part of the whole like process and stages of the event. But no, there weren't girls like sitting there sucking dick to get a guy performed. Like, dude, do that on your own. Another fallacy. Let's see. Yeah, that all the anal performers loved anal. A lot of them did not. They were just doing it for the money of it all. What's another good one? Oh yeah, that because you're good in the bedroom, because you can fuck like a machine, it doesn't necessarily mean you would be a good performer, a male performer. So stop hitting up people saying, I fuck like a champ in the bedroom. I would be a great porn star because it doesn't always translate. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. You'll probably crash and burn and waste everyone's time.
It's weird because, man, you're mentioning the Phil Jackson. I'm seeing the diamond, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I think it takes a lot more practice in that setting to really understand that, considering. But again, that hot tub, man. I know that I need to know what you said. Could I break character and just be a fan currently?
Uh,
What was it about the hot tub that would woo the women when they came to
it-
visit you? Why
it-
was it always like you were just trying to hang out? They wanted to go to hot tub. You wanted to get with, they went to the hot tub.
it wasn't the hot tub, man. The hot tub was just there. We just wound up being in it. It was more the fact that I come out, looking like a young professional that's in shape, that's well groomed and manicured, that smells nice, but I'm not coming out there to fuck them. We're here to work. This is a business. This is a transaction. Here's your paperwork. Here's your script. I'm going to get you through this, and it's all going to be professional. And because I wasn't that guy that was trying to get them into bed, lo and behold, they were like, "Oh, let's go to bed." I don't know. Hey, it worked. The thing that's so funny is like as time went on, you develop a reputation, and that people were saying, well, they didn't, the head office or the agents, they didn't like it because you were fucking all the girls. Well, let's clarify something. I wasn't fucking all of the girls. I was the ones that I was actually like trying to have a meaningful connection with, which I know it sounds funny, but I was failing trying to date in the outside world that I was trying to find people within the industry. But let me ask you something. If the really hot 22-year-old, beautiful Spiegler girl that looks like amazing naked, that they can fuck well, and saying, hey, here's my number. I'd like to hang out sometime. Would you say no?
But I get the point. There's a lot of men that, again, the United States is so engrossed in this Christian ideology that sex is bad that out loud they're gonna be like, no, I want it. But outside, inside they'll be like, yo, I already texted her, bro.
Yeah.
Saved.
Yeah. Like I say, what was I gonna do? Not have sex with a hot, young, of age porn star who wants to have consensual sex? Come on, man. Like that's where it was. And it was coming down to a whole situation of, is this person going to complicate my life? Or is it going to be a situation where it's physically fun and maybe there's a connection beyond that where we want to spend more time with each other? 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it was more just a physical fun experience without a connection. But hey, man, you can't fault a guy for trying, you know?
You've always had this philosophy of take the risk.
Mhm.
Live a good life, die a good death, Second Amendment, do what you can, bet on yourself. And because you bet on yourself, you're retired at this age. You don't have to worry about anything anymore money wise. And a lot of people, got their hands out coming up to you, what can I do? Or remember this. And it's just, I wanted to know, out of all the struggles, especially people listen, go buy Filthy on Amazon now, Spotify too. What was the biggest payoff off of a risk and what was the biggest failure?
Well, the biggest success, the biggest hit was when I bought the studio, which was the second studio. First one was a 16,000 square foot monstrosity that I rented, for 6 years that my company guaranteed the lease on, which could have gone sideways at any moment. But when third ownership, MindGeek, the Third Reich, took over and they were tightening the bolts, and they said, we want a smaller place and we want it to be less money. And I was on very shaky ground with this new ownership. Who knows what I was going to do? What did I do? I didn't just lease the next studio, I bought the next studio. And I didn't tell them. They didn't want details. They just assumed they were paying a landlord. They just didn't know the landlord was me. That was my escape plan. That was my end game. That was what was going to happen once the porn musical chairs ended. So the biggest risk I ever took. I mean, another risk was coming out here, buying this house, on this little startup company that, said they were going to keep me very busy. That so many times within this journey, things could have gone terribly sideways and could have put me under financially and otherwise. I'd be bankrupt and have shitty credit. Somehow it worked out, man. I don't know. Maybe it was all the blood that I donated over the years, and all the humans I saved and all the dogs I saved. Maybe that's part of it. As far as biggest failures, I mean, my relationships. Let's be honest. Every single one of them. I want to say that the conclusion that I came to at the end of Filthy when I was reminiscing in the Coda chapter was that I was getting my water from a tainted well, and I was looking to have these relationships of these broken souls within the industry, thinking that, I could fix her, or no, not so much that, but I mean, I can make it work. I can figure it out. I tried it again recently. And if that doesn't really jostle the reality in my brain that the performers in the industry have a lot of disconnects emotionally, sometimes spiritually, a lot of unreconciled trauma that doesn't make them an ideal partner. If I don't know that by now, I'm never going to learn that lesson. I am a sucker for when they're, in their, late 20s and early 30s and they're beautiful and they look great naked and they feel really good. I do have a bad habit of putting that in front of the other stuff that's more important. But I've learned from that. I'm okay rolling solo. Like I've really become comfortable with that. I'm not on the dating sites anymore because they're shit, especially out here in Las Vegas. So if I find someone organically, wonderful. But my lot in life probably is going to experience a lot of beautiful women over the course of my lifetime. Poor fucking me, huh?
But I understand that spiritual connection with
Yeah,
somebody sexually and spiritually, and then having the mate. I can understand that. But the fact that I don't care what anybody says as far as the age limit, but hey, if that's a legal individual, two consenting adults, it just seems that they have this broken piece that you want to help fix. And that's just naturally, that's the good in you wanting to make sure they do better. Back to Jackie, hey, there's something there. I want to make it better. I want to help it. These are the fan questions. These are supposed to be the three quick ones.
sure.
First one, what was the Phillies game you caught the foul ball at where you went?
Okay, so it was against the Marlins. This would have been in 2010 in April. This was after I broke up with my succubus of an ex-fiance. This was right after Jamie died. And Dan Ugla hit a foul ball. Now, I went to that game with a porn star who was having sex with one of the players that got us hooked into the like the VIP section. It was always back. So ninth inning, foul ball goes behind and comes right at me, and I'm like, well, I think things are changing. I think things are finally changing for the good now. So that was the one.
Who have you met that is a hero to you in the industry or out that was kind of like, oh, that's cool. I know you had a great run with the guys on Howard Stern, and Didn't see if you got to meet him personally. I know the crew knows you. I know you've been
Yeah.
on there a couple of times and they've mentioned you. But have you gotten to meet the how? Excuse me. Have you been able to meet Howard or Robin? Have you met anybody in or outside of the industry that you looked up to and said, "Yo, this I could consider you a hero. Thank you for your work."
I haven't met Howard or Robin, just talk with them on the phone whenever I call in and he takes my calls. Um, I'd say musicians that I've gotten to know as friends. Um, yeah, I'd say there are a few. Andy Frasco, he's a wild man. Um, yeah, he got me tickets for his show on my 50th birthday at the Brooklyn Bowl in New York. Um, James Duval, who played me in the trailer for Filthy, that's on viclagina.com. He's awesome. I mean, I didn't really realize how many movies he's been in, and he's a super nice guy, and he's totally cool. And I could text him now, and he'd be like, "Yo, what's up, man?" Yeah, James Duval, Frank, the bunny in Donnie Darko. Yeah, I'd put him up there as well.
Why doesn't your house run on PlayStation? Why were you such an Xbox guy after Nintendo?
No, I actually was more of a PlayStation guy. I played Xbox, I think for a few games, but I think it was Call of Duty and Injustice, where the controller was just better. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. No, no. I don't have a PS5. I really don't even play video games anymore, just because I figure I could be reading or practicing the keys or something. I feel like it's not a good use of time anymore, and time is the precious resource these days.
I'm not judging. Well, actually,
Yeah,
I only judge a little bit because I've been
yeah,
using video games to study. I'll be like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sir, I always end these on the most important question.
Mhm.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
There's a couple of them. First of all, always ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? Number one. Um, Always to like whatever you do in life, make sure you do it to the best of your abilities and it's the best possible product. Anything that you could do, that's very important. And I guess the most important one is be present. Focus on this moment now. Not worry about 15, 20 minutes from now, next month, next year. Don't have regrets about the past. Take your lessons from the past, apply them to right now, this moment, and live and be present and live the best life you can right now.
That's extremely wise words. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out Filthy, The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina. It is out now. You can go to viclagina.com. You could get the book I just mentioned on Amazon and Spotify. Go check him out on X, Vic Lagina. And also, there's two Instagram accounts, but Filthy Vic Lagina is how you're going to find it. Good sir, sincerely, I can't say how fun and educational this interview was. The School of Vic Lagina's School Law coming out soon. But seriously, though, thank you so much for your time and your graciousness. It's so appreciated.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to when this comes out.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember, be smart, be mindful, go buy the pending death of Vic Lagina, and rock on. Ninja out.
Vic Lagina here. Had a great time talking with John the Ninja. And when you get a chance, check out Filthy, The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina, my salacious tale about the porn industry. Check it out on Spotify, check it out on Audible, read in my silky smooth voice. Or if you're a reader, looks beautiful on your bookshelf. This is John the Ninja Podcast. This is Vic Lagina.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.